2010 Honda Crosstour. The guy bought it used, and now he's got 182,000. It's still running fine, and he's in his mid-70s, and he's wondering what's going to go first, him or the car. And it's kind of a toss-up. He seems in decent shape, but the car seems in decent shape too. So what I'm going to do today is I'll go through all the checks of what you would do if you were buying a used car, so he can see, is there anything that's going to go wrong, and will the car outlast him? Well, the Crosstour, they didn't make them but 9 years. They're nice looking cars. There's nothing wrong with them. They don't make them because it was kind of an in-between car SUV that just didn't make it in terms of how much money it cost and what you got. You can say it even says Accord Crosstour. I personally think they look a lot better than the Accords, but for some reason they decided to stop making them. And of course I know the real reason, because they want to make giant SUVs out of everything, where they make a higher profit margin. They didn't make that many of these, they didn't sell that many of these, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. They're good systems. He's never had a problem with it. He changes the oil every 5,000 miles, the transmission every 60, the transfer case every 30, and as you're going to see under the hood, it's a really dependable Honda 3.5 liter variable valve V6 engine that can run forever. And you can see, look, it's dirty here. Well, he doesn't care. It's not leaking to the ground. Yes, you get little seepage. It doesn't hurt anything at all. The downside with this engine is it does have a rubber timing belt, and you want to change that about every 100,000 miles. Now, nobody knows why, but everyone else in the world went to timing chains on their engines. Honda kept the belts on for way too long, which is really weird because they changed to timing chains on their 4-cylinder engines, but most of their V6s, they left timing belts on. I don't know, I guess they just didn't want to switch it over. Who knows? They work fine, but you do have to change the belts about every 100,000 miles. You don't want the engine to blow, because it is an interference engine. If the timing belts break, pistons will hit the valves, it'll cost you a fortune. But he's had no such problems with it. He's changed his at 100,000 miles. He takes care of it. You take care of a Honda, believe me, it'll take care of you. You can polish the headlamps if you want them shiny again, or go aftermarket like I did. And even though this thing's living in Massachusetts, look, the alloy wheels are still in pretty good shape. And when we look under, it's got superficial rust, of course, but the thing still is in pretty good shape. Honda knows how to rust-proof these vehicles. They're not going to rot away like a Chrysler or a Ford. They have good undercoating. They're made correctly. You're going to see rusty pipes. That's just what happens. And if you look here, that's still the original muffler. They want to Americanize it because it says 4-wheel drive. Technically, it's all-wheel drive. You can't turn one off or the other like in a truck where you can go 2-wheel high or 4-wheel high, 2-wheel low, 4-wheel low. It's an automatic system that drives all 4 wheels. That's all that matters. Who cares about political correctness? Now you can see this is a phone, right? It's a Blackview. It's a good phone. I use it for analyzing cars. This is called AnyScan 30M. It's made by X-Tools, you can see. And if you've been watching my stuff, I got an X-Tool D8, right? This does almost exactly what that does, only instead of $790, this little kit is $216. Now, granted, it doesn't do immobilizer keys. You can't use it to make a key in your car. Most people aren't going to do that. But this thing does just about anything that the other one does. It's insane what this thing does for $216. And unlike some of the stuff I showed you, like the one I showed you on Japanese cars, it was phenomenal too, but it only worked on Japanese cars. This works on all the cars. So we're going to check this thing out. Key turned down with the engine not running, the battery lights on. And we'll do auto scan. It knows it's a 2010 Crosstour, 16-pin connector, and we'll do an automatic scan. And here we go, just like the big boys. It's scanning an awful lot of things. All you need is a phone. I like Androids. You can see it's going through 48 different systems. This little thing is going through 48 systems. Now this X-Tool dongle tool works quite well, but you notice it is slower than the $800 one because instead of having a giant processor, you're just using your phone. This is a Blackview. It's an okay phone. You know, I use it for analyzing cars. It's not a phone. I don't even have a chip in it for using it for making calls because I only use it to analyze car products. Give it a few minutes. We're now on number 16 out of 48. And it's probably going to take about 8 minutes to do the whole system. So while we're going through that, you can see he stuck his phone up here for navigation. But it did come with sat nav. Of course, it's an older car, so it's got, yes, a compact disc CD changer. But it's got everything you normally want to need, the modes, the heating, air conditioning. Now, it's got some steering wheel basics too, so you can run a bunch of the stuff off the steering wheel. These were sort of a luxurious car in their time. You know, it is 12 years old now, but it still rides quite well. And being a luxury car, it's got some wood grain, but the only problem he's got is the driver's door card's kind of coming apart here. That was made a little bit cheap. And it's got a decent sunroof if you like sunroofs. Lots of room in the back seat. And a cute little trunk there in the back. I have to say the seats are incredibly comfortable. Even though they're 12 years old. Well, we're getting there. We're now on 47 to 48. Now we're done. Go through everything. Normal, normal, normal. There's a failure on the BCM, the anti-lock brakes. So it's all minor stuff. We'll see what it is. The engine's okay. We'll see what the failure of the ABS is. Malfunction of the powertrain control module for the ABS. Could be a wiring problem, a circuit. You don't expect ABS systems to work that good on a car that's 12 years old anyways. And that could be as simple as the battery replaced. We'll erase that code. We'll see if anything will happen later. We'll clear it. And if it doesn't come back, it was just a power failure. Now we'll see something's wrong with the airbag system. We'll diagnose that. And it says passenger airbag cutoff indicator is shorted. Again, that could easily be an electrical problem, but if it does come back, you don't expect airbags to work that well in a 12-year-old car. Buckle up with your seatbelt. But we'll erase it for now. The code is the BCM. It has one code. We'll see what that is. You can see if you use a phone, it's going to be a little slower than a separate computer, but it still works perfectly fine. And yet, it's another electronic supposed failure. We're going to just clear them all. And if they don't come back, could have been the battery was changed, could have been a minor flaw. All minor things, actually. It has nothing to do with the transmission or engine. And as you can see now, that's all cleared. So, let's look at the engine data. And you can see this little tiny device may only be $219, but it does 174 points of data. 174. They're checking the data. You can see it pops up pretty fast. It's not that slow. An awful lot of information. Look at it all. It is insane. Now, we're going to kind of look at fuel trim, see how it's running. The information on the variable valve timing. Oil pressure on the rocker arm. It's amazing. It's a 6-cylinder. There's the misfire, 000, not misfiring at all. And we can see the air-fuel ratio is working perfectly fine. 1.00, that's perfect. Every once in a while it goes 1.01, so it's, you know, 1/100% off. But that's Hondas for you. They're excellent, well-made cars. Can last a long time. Now, the guy does maintain it. Changes the oil every 5. Changes the tranny every 60. This is 4-wheel drive system, all-wheel drive, but they call it 4-wheel drive. He changes differential fluid every 30,000 miles. He's taking care of this car. He bought it used with 40,000 miles on it, and now it's got 182,000 miles. He's definitely got his money's worth. Considering that he's around 75 and he's had 1 lung removed from cancer already, I'm kind of guessing this car may outlast him. He definitely doesn't need to buy another one. And I do have to say, so far, this AnyScan A30M is amazing. Gotta say, these guys at X-Tools make some pretty good stuff. Hey, this is $219. The D8 that I have is like $700 something. This does pretty much almost the same stuff, except like I say, it doesn't make keys. But how often are you making keys? Are you a locksmith? Probably not. So, if you're looking to buy a Honda Crosstour, don't be put off by the fact that they don't make them anymore. There's nothing wrong with them. They were just a wrong price point for Honda. They went more to full SUVs than something that's kind of part sedan, part small SUV. There's nothing wrong with these cars. They're fun to drive. They can last a long time. And if you live in the snow belts, hey, the all-wheel drive system works quite well. You're really not going to get stuck if you put decent tires on them. So, now you know the truth about them. They may not make them anymore, but it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. Soldier just bought the CR-V for $2,000. It has 201,000 miles on it. You look around, it came pre-bashed and dented in. Realize that at most body shops, to fix this stuff, they're probably going to charge you close to $2,000 just to do that. It will run exactly the same with or without the dent. If you don't mind buying a dented car, now is the time to buy it. It's a Honda. CR-Vs, I've seen these things with 500,000 miles on it. So the first thing I want to do is look under the hood. A 2.4 inline 4 VTEC Honda, one of the best engines Honda ever made. They are excellent engines. Now, he's saying sometimes it gets a little bit of hesitation in it, so we're going to look at the most obvious thing on the planet. The air filter. So after we wrestled this crap off, what's inside? One of the dirtiest air filters I ever saw. You don't get enough air going into your car, it's going to run like crap. Ages ago, my old photographer at CBS in Houston, his Honda failed the emissions test. And all I did was put in a new air filter, then it passed the test. So we're going to get one of those. But while we're analyzing, I'm going to look at a spark plug too. So now we're going to pull out a spark plug to see what shape they're in. So pull out a spark plug, take a look at it. They tell you a lot about what kind of shape the engine is in. Getting old, I can't twist like I used to. And out it comes. And what do we see? Pretty much good news. Now it's worn, you could replace it, but you see it's that nice kind of tannish color. That means it's running pretty good at a good temperature, and it's not covered with black soot, so this is not an oil burner. Now, if it had been covered with a bunch of black crud, that's burnt carbon, burnt oil, you wouldn't want to buy it. So, you know, you can change the plugs whenever you want, but this shows that it's not an excessive oil burner, which is a good thing. Now, of course, if you want to do a thorough job, you could check all four, but it's a Honda engine. One of them's clean, odds are the other ones are clean. If it had been running really bad, I'd say, yeah, let's check them all, but it isn't running really bad. This just shows that the engine was taken care of. The engine should be in really good shape. So before we start testing it with a machine, let's get an air filter. Sticks in the hole, put the top back on. It's always fun wiggling these things on. To start by putting the main unit on, then this little hose. There, now we can bolt it on and put this on. Get nice and snug. And don't forget to tighten the air intake here. So get inside, start her up. Oh, the battery's getting low. Yet another thing to analyze. Probably needs a battery. Let's put the tester on it. So get the old scan tool out that does battery testing. Test the battery here. Tells you to charge the battery. Well, it keeps going dead. We know the battery's dead. Jump start it and test the alternator. These little jump boosters work fine. Now it should start right up. Which it does. So we'll test the alternator. Now we rev it up. Now it's counting down to 0. You can see it's putting out some good voltage there. Now it's charging plenty. Now this is giving false information here, but I know it as a mechanic. As you can see, it says charging voltage is above the acceptable limit. Inspect the charging system. Well, there's actually nothing wrong with the charging system. This battery that's in it now is so weak and low that the alternator has to charge it too much. So it's saying the alternator's overcharging, but it isn't. When we put another battery in, that affects it. You don't have to worry about that. You got to understand how these machines operate when you do them. There's not a problem with the alternator. That's why you don't want to drive a car with a bad battery too long, because if you do, it will overstretch the alternator and we'll burn it out. So it's definitely time for a new alternator. While we're here, hey, all modules scan, and we'll see what general shape the vehicle's in. We'll look through the stuff, no trouble codes. Okay, the anti-lock braking system has a problem, which is typical. So does the supplementary restraint system, the airbags. They often won't work on a car this old. Use your seat belts, but we'll look at the ABS just to see what the heck's going on. Lateral acceleration sensor failure. Battery voltage failure, well, that's because the battery's weak. ECM, that's because the battery's weak. And the vehicle speed activation time is too long. Well, it doesn't have any ABS lights on, and since the battery's dead, I would put another battery in and recheck the whole system. But we'll take it for a road test. The actual data on this thing shows it really doesn't have any problems. See, because it's funny, look at the live data. The ABS warning light is off. Let's not even show you there's a problem. Look at the regular data on this thing. You can see the long-term fuel trim, it's adding 3.9. It's running a little bit lean. They do when they get older. Nothing outrageous. You can see the ignition timing is moving a little bit up and down, showing that the timing chain's a little bit worn. Nothing outrageous. Might have a little bit of hesitation sometimes from that, but nothing you're going to want to rebuild the engine for. See the equivalent ratio? It's not bad. 1.00 is perfect, and this is 0.999994. Pretty close to perfect. Oh well, back it up, take it for a spin. Old car, no backup camera. Use your eyes. And yeah, the steering wheel's a bit in tatters, but hey, so am I. Now driving around, I can see why people like CRVs. They're not outrageously high, but they've got a nice height, so you feel safe driving over anything. Being the size that they are, they're still reasonably zippy. Really, for its age, a couple 100,000 miles, brakes work fine, and you're gonna get noises. Because as they age, Honda CRVs are just noisy. I had a customer had one with 250,000, drove from Houston to Albuquerque and back, and her bushings were worn in the back and it shook. I wouldn't have taken that thing over 60. She was found doing 100. She went there and back and she made it. So now we'll get going down the highway here. You can hear the little whine in the tranny, but it's not outrageous. And yeah, the steering wheel has a little shake to it. I'm sure that the tires are somewhat worn and out of balance, but it's structurally stable. And yeah, it kind of sounds like the Wizard of Oz in here, because the door's got a little air leak here. You can put another dripping in if you want it, or just Turn the radio up. You can still get a car for a couple of grand if you don't mind it coming pre-dented. Engine in this Honda is still in excellent shape. Can go a long time. He got it for a knockaround vehicle because you can hit a transmission line a little. This isn't a vehicle you're going to drive 20,000 miles a year. Eventually, you'd have to do the transmission. He babies it, drives it around. It could last quite some time. And for 2,000 bucks these days, it's kind of like when I was a kid buying a car for 100 bucks. You don't expect miracles, but in this case, the engine's still good. Runs, doesn't have any serious problems or anything. Not a bad deal. Really, all it needed was an air filter. People were just too lazy to even look at it. All those screws, they didn't want to take them all off. And I've seen that so many times on Hondas. That's the first thing I check on it. And so maybe you're looking at when it doesn't run right. Check it out. Look at the air filter. If it's clogged, say, what kind of run's bad? I don't know. No, I want to pay less for it. And then change the air filter after you buy it. All right, today we got a 2010 Honda Fit. Guy bought it used, got a good deal, only paid $3 something for it. And this, by the way, is the Honda Fit Sport. But you might be fooled there. You know, that's one thing. It's a small engine. The Sport version is no different than the regular version in terms of engine, transmission. It's more style than anything else. 1 inch bigger wheel and nice alloy rims instead of those cheap little steel ones with hubcaps, so you give them that. And the interior is a little bit fancier too. It does look a lot better than the stock one, but since they got the same engine and tranny, you can see he's just driving this thing around and he's getting 33.4 just driving it around. And it got the fancy Honda media center too. One of the things I like about this particular one is it is made in Japan. Now, truth be told, Honda's got an excellent factory in Ohio. I, though, personally always like Japanese cars made in Japan. Now, a lot of them, the engines, the trannies come from Japan. They put them together someplace else. But they are more conservative. They have closer tolerances. I would rather get a Japanese car made in Japan. That's just the way that it goes. And this particular one was made in Japan. Now, the owner of this car is going to medical school. So, of course, he doesn't have any money. As he says, he's paying them money to work for them because he's in his 4th year. This is a great car. It's cost them practically nothing to drive this thing around. And they're actually, for what they are, a very good car. Front-wheel drive, so you put snow tires on in winter, even around here, you're not going to get stuck in the snow. They're light enough that, hey, they get good gas mileage, but they still got a reasonable amount of space. I mean, check it out. Look, here's the back seat. Look at all this room. If you watch that video I made a few weeks ago on that Honda that the guy bought for 55 grand, when he put that seat back, there was 1 finger length between the back seat and the front. And that is supposedly a sports sedan. These are really well designed in terms of spatial integrity. There's a lot of room for a very small car. Of course, when you open the hatch and you drop the seats, you got even more room. They're really well-designed vehicles for what they are. Really. It has a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. It's got plenty enough horsepower to go. Now, you'll notice this is a Massachusetts car, so you can see anything that's made out of metal, especially aluminum, is going to be pitted. But the thing is, it still works. See, looking inside, it's still clean. Check it out. Look at that frame. Now, he's obviously taken care of it and cleaned it, but there's not 1 iota of rust under there. Realize the Japanese figured out how to make cars that didn't rust a long time ago. My 94 Celica still isn't rusted. They use zinc-rich primers. They know what they're doing when they're building cars so they don't rot away. Let's say this was a Chrysler or a Ford of the same year. I guarantee you the bottom would be all rotting away. The AC still works on it. Most of the parts, alternator, are still original parts on it. I hate these small batteries in Hondas. I wish they put bigger ones in. That's the only thing. They'll wear out prematurely just because they're so small, and there isn't much space to put a bigger one in, but I mean, it's kind of a small thing to talk about, really. Sure, the headlights are a little faded, but you can polish those out. It's not that big of a deal. Now, you know, this guy's in 4th year medical school. You're going to be a doctor. He says he wants to be an anesthesiologist. He likes this car, and he said his next car will probably be a RAV4. He wants to be a bit higher, but he's still not getting extravagant. He's looking at logical machines that can last a long time, get decent gas mileage, and get you where you're going, and don't turn into rust buckets, because you live up on the East Coast here. You don't want to buy a rust bucket Chevy or a rust bucket Chrysler. They'll fall apart. These things are coated better. It's a better deal. Now, when you buy them, you can't believe anybody used, so you got to look at it. Who knows where it started out? I mean, a guy come over here yesterday. The car started out in Alaska, then it went to Minnesota, then it went to Arizona, then it came here. So somebody could say, oh, it's an Arizona car. Well, not really. It didn't spend that much time in Arizona. It spent more time up north where they use a lot of salt on the road. So let's take it for a spin. Now, he added the backup camera, and he also added the in-dash thing, too. Now, the tire pressure monitoring light's on. It's because the tires have bad batteries. Who cares? You can check them with gauges yourself. Tiny car. Look, we put it in gear. It's not shaking at all, and hey, it's got some mileage on it. It's got 125,000 miles on it. And for such a tiny car on such a bumpy road, really, it doesn't ride that bad. And I got this giant hump up here, and it's tall enough that you don't hear it scraping either. Now we'll take it on the real bumpy road here, and we'll feel it more, but let's see what it does. Actually, it rides better than my Toyota Matrix does. Of course, it's 3 years newer too, but Hondas do have a tendency of riding and driving better than Toyotas. They have better suspension systems. Now we'll wait for an opening here. Nobody to the left, nobody to the right. Let's see how it takes off. Hey, it's a Honda. It's got some zip to it. Pretty good shifting transmission too. A little car, but man, it's zippy. Being Honda, it does handle quite well. You can go curving around in this thing. You want to zip around the curves, you can zip around the curves all you want. They handle, they don't oversteer. They're really fun to drive, little cars. And of course, being small and lightweight, hey, the brakes work like a charm when you got to put the brakes on. Look at this. They stop fast. It's a little light car. It can stop really fast. Basically, they're pretty much perfectly designed for a vehicle of this size. It's like its name says. They are very fit. And it's the sports version. Yes, it has bigger wheels, but I mean, everything else is the same. It's not like a Civic Si or a Civic Type R that really have radical improvements over the run-of-the-mill Civics. This is still the Honda Fit. It just has different accoutrements. Still runs the same, gets great gas mileage, has the same space inside. Being a sport model, it's got cool, tricked out blue lights and stuff that you see on them. It looks a little snazzier. Here we have a Honda Fit 2010. It's exactly what it says. It's Fit. A great little car. You only paid $3-something grand for it. Gets good gas mileage. Doesn't have to put any money into it. And really, you might be surprised. If you're ever thinking about getting one of these, road test one. And you'll probably fall in love with it, because for that kind of money, a little engine in a small car like that, it's zippy and it handles like a dream. There's absolutely nothing wrong with these cars. They don't have any real downsides. Now, some people say, well, they don't ride great. They ride great for a car that size, you know? I mean, there's only so much you can do with a small car. Get in one of these, they get in a Honda Civic Type R that'll cost you 65, 70 grand. This thing rides 10 times better than that, because it's not a race car. Type R handles like a dream, rides like a piece of iron going down the road. Most people can't stand them. Only the racers want them. This, for a little car, definitely worth the money. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.